Welcome back to the deep dive. We are doing something a little different today.
Yeah, this one feels different.
It does. Usually, we're taking a stack of business journals or maybe some dense tech specs, and we're trying to figure out where the market is going or what the next big disruption is.
The usual stuff.
But today, we're looking at something much more foundational. I guess that's the word. We're looking at the infrastructure of your actual life.
That is a bold setup. I like it.
It is, but I think the source material backs it up. We're analyzing a collection titled Omnibus Poetry 50 Friends by a man named Manuel del Valle y Colón.
Okay.
And before anyone tunes out because they hear the word poetry and think this is going to be about, flowers and clouds.
Which it isn't.
Not at all. I need you to understand the profile of the man who wrote this. This isn't someone who spent his life gazing at a lake in solitude.
Far from it. I mean, this is a man whose career was defined by the most rigid, codified systems we have in society.
Exactly. Talk about that.
Manuel del Valle was a Yale Law graduate, a Princeton alumnus, a civil rights litigator, and a chief administrative law judge.
So wait, a judge?
A judge. He spent decades in the trenches of the legal system, prosecuting labor violations, deciding human rights cases, and dealing with the hard, cold machinery of the state.
Okay, so you have this high-powered legal mind, a guy who understands the architecture of the state, laws, statutes, hearings, all the stuff that keeps civilization from collapsing.
Written rules.
And then he turns around and applies that same rigorous analytical intellect to the architecture of human connection.
And that's the core tension of this deep dive. That's what's so fascinating. How does a judge define friendship? And he doesn't view friendship as just a hobby or a social habit or, something you do to kill time on a Saturday.
No.
He describes it as an emotional ecology.
Emotional ecology. I stopped on that phrase when I was reading the prep material. It suggests a system, right? Like a biological system where everything is interconnected. It implies that if you pull one thread, the whole web moves.
Precisely. And his argument, really, is that we are generally illiterate when it comes to our own emotions. We think we know what a friend is, but we're mostly operating on instinct. We stumble into these relationships.
We're flying blind.
Totally. So the mission of his work, and our mission today, is to map the unwritten laws that actually hold our lives together. He's asking a question that he says he asked in every courtroom and every poem.
Which is?
What does it mean to be human here?
Which is a terrifying question to ask in a courtroom, frankly.
Right.
Usually the question in a courtroom is, did you break the rule? Or is this admissible evidence? Not, what does it mean to be human?
But for Del Valle, the rule doesn't exist without the human context.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're judging a labor violation, you're judging how humans treat humans. If you're writing a poem about grief, you're judging how humans survive loss.
It's the same question.
It's always the same question. And to understand his answer, especially when it comes to friendship, we have to look at where he started. Because he didn't start in a courtroom.
No, he started in the Carver houses and the Douglas Project.
In East Harlem.
Born in 1948. He's a New Yorkan born in New York with deep roots in Puerto Rico.
And that geography is so crucial. You have to picture it. He grew up in that intense, vibrant, but also really difficult environment of 1950s and 60s Harlem.
Yeah.
It's a place where survival often depended on your network, on your neighbors, on who you knew. So he carries this street-smart grit, this toughness, and then he moves into the most elite halls of the Ivy League, Wesleyan, Princeton, Yale.
He's a synthesizer.
He's a bridge. He bridges worlds.
And that ability to bridge worlds is exactly what led him to the first major insight of this collection. And this is where I want to slow down because this part honestly blew my mind.
Okay.
He basically argues that the English language is a failure.
A failure is a strong word, but yeah, he definitely views it as a blunt instrument when it comes to feelings. He calls it the limitation of English.
Let's get into this taxonomy of love he discusses. Because when you think about it, he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
In English, I say, I love pizza. Then I turn around and say, I love my mom. Then I say, I love my wife. And maybe I love this deep dive. It's the exact same word for four completely different things.
It's incredibly inefficient. It flattens the human experience. You're using one word to describe gustatory pleasure, biological attachment, romantic passion, and intellectual appreciation. It's messy.
So what does he do?
Del Valle turns to Chinese thought, and he also references Thai and Japanese traditions to find a vocabulary that actually works. The whole volume is dedicated to those who understand that friendship creates a new emotional vocabulary.
So he's giving us the tools, he's handing us a new dictionary.
He is.
Yeah.
And he breaks down this Chinese taxonomy in the dedication. And we need to walk through these because they aren't just vocabulary words. They're distinct categories of being. He's saying if you don't know these categories, you might not even know what you're feeling.
Okay, lay it on me. Where does he start?
Right. So he starts with the romantic registers, which kind of helps set the stage. In English, we just have romance or passion, but he breaks out aching, which is that formal, very intense romantic love. But then he immediately distinguishes that from roking.
Roking. Okay, what's that? The gentle one. Right?
Yes. It's soft, patient caring. It's the water, not the fire. It's the long-term, slow-burn affection.
And that's so important.
It is. And then compare that to Ji King, which he describes as fire-stroked passion.
Okay, so that's the fire.
That is the fire. And see, that distinction alone could save marriages. If you think love is only Ji King, the fire, then when that fire inevitably settles down into Ro King, the gentle caring, you might panic and think the love is gone.
But he's saying, no, it just shifted categories. You're still in the love building. You've just moved to a different room.
Exactly. You're mistaking a change in state for a loss of substance. But where he really drills down, and where it applies to our deep dive today, is the friendship terminology.
Yeah.
Because friend is maybe the most overused, watered-down word in our society. I have, 500 friends on social media?
Right, but you wouldn't call 495 of them if you were in the hospital.
No way. So Del Valle fixes this. He uses the term yaking for friendship, which is the general term, but he immediately pairs it with kingi, and this is crucial.
Kingi. Okay, what's the extra layer there?
Loyalty. It implies a heartfelt commitment, a sense of duty. It's not just that we hang out and have fun, it's that I have your back. It carries a moral weight that the English word friend simply doesn't have.
You've got teeth.
It does. And then there's another one, jelking, which is all about time.
Ah.
It means relationships built over time. This is a fascinating distinction. You cannot have joking with someone you met last week, no matter how much you click with them.
It's an earned status. Exactly.
It acknowledges that history itself has value. The sheer endurance of a relationship adds a specific quality to the affection. It's the we've been through stuff together feeling codified into a single word.
Wow. The one that hit me hardest in the notes, though, was the family term, gene roking.
Yeah. Bone and flesh feeling.
That is so visceral. It sounds almost painful. Bone and flesh.
It's supposed to be. It implies that the connection isn't a choice. It's structural. You can't divorce your own arm, even if it's broken, even if it hurts you. It's still your arm.
It captures that inescapable nature of family bonds, especially between, like, siblings or parents and children.
It's biological and spiritual at the same time. It's in your very marrow.
He also includes Jianqing, which is place-based attachment, nostalgia for a village or a hometown.
Which is massive for the immigrant experience, or the New Yorker experience in his case. That longing for the island or the block isn't just a memory. It's a specific type of love. It's an ache for geography. It's a real feeling with a real name.
So, okay, we've got all these terms. Why start a book of poetry with what is essentially a dictionary? Is he just showing off his linguistics?
No, not at all. He's trying to cure what he sees as emotional illiteracy. He's giving us the tools to read our own lives. There's a poem in the source material called Dream in Chinese.
Okay.
And in it, the protagonist is flying over buildings in a dream, looking down at the city. And because he has this vocabulary, he doesn't just see people interacting. He sees the web.
He sees the heat map of the city's emotions.
That is the perfect analogy. He sees a king lighting up in one window where lovers are. He sees king in another where a family's eating dinner. He sees neighbors doing ranking, which is social obligation and favors, down in the street.
It's like putting on thermal goggles, but for human connection.
Yes. And the realization he comes to in the poem is that emotion is connective tissue. It's not just a private event happening inside your chest. It is the literal glue holding society together.
And if you don't have the words to distinguish the different kinds of glue, you can't understand the building.
You're navigating the world blind. You might mistake a social obligation for deep loyalty, and that leads to heartbreak or confusion. You're using the wrong map.
So we have the vocabulary now. Let's talk about the man who built this vocabulary for himself. We mentioned he started in the projects, but the prep notes on his high school years are fascinating. We're talking about Brooklyn Technical High School in the 1960s.
Brooklyn Tech. I mean, even today, that is a legendary school. It's a specialized high school in New York, very intense, very academic. Del Valle entered in 1962.
You have to think about the context. This is the height of the civil rights era. The world is changing. Vietnam is ramping up.
It's a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
And here's this kid from the projects entering this academic furnace.
And we have his yearbook inscriptions, which is just amazing. Usually yearbook quotes are, garbage, have a great summer, stay sweet, see you at the beach, that kind of thing.
Total fluff.
But these are different. These read like people are writing to a 40-year-old diplomat, not a 17-year-old kid.
They are prophetic.
Yeah.
They really are. You have classmates writing to a teenager, calling him a gentleman and a scholar.
A classmate named Robert Unger wrote, "To an amateur historian." Another, Bruce Thompson, wrote, "To my favorite philosopher."
My favorite philosopher.
Who says that to their high school buddy? But look at the one from Victor Madeja. This one it stopped me in my tracks.
Which one is that?
He writes, "May the gods fight at your shoulder."
Wow.
May the gods fight at your shoulder. Who writes that to a teenager in a high school yearbook? It sounds like something out of the Iliad. It sounds mythological. It does. It suggests that even at that age, Del Valle projected this sense of battle, of a crusade. He wasn't just trying to get good grades. He was fighting for something bigger. He had a gravity that other kids clearly recognized.
And another one, Larry Sher, called him the power behind the throne.
See, that's a very specific type of leadership. It's not the guy standing on the table shouting, "Look at me." It's the strategist, the architect, the quiet influence, the conciliere.
And if you look at his activities in the yearbook, it tracks perfectly. He wasn't just in clubs, he was leading them. He was the Issues and Actions chairman of the Aspira Clubs Federation.
And Aspira is the big Puerto Rican youth leadership organization, right? That's a huge deal.
It's a huge deal. So he was already organizing his community. He was doing polling for New York City elections as a teenager. He was managing the fencing team.
The fencing detail is perfect. It's so on brand. It's precise. It's combat, but it's elegant. It fits the lawyer-poet vibe perfectly.
It really does.
Yeah.
So he graduates in '66. Goes to Yale for a transitional year, and then Wesleyan, then transfers to Princeton. And at Princeton, he doesn't just attend classes. He creates infrastructure.
What do you mean?
He founds the Latino organization. He teaches, as an undergraduate, one of the first seminars on Puerto Rican history.
Wait, pause on that. He taught the class. He was a student, and he was teaching a class.
He taught the seminar. The university didn't have the curriculum, so he built it. He saw a need, and he filled it. And get this. His senior thesis, which was called History of the Puerto Rican Student and Public Education, was so comprehensive and so well-researched that it was used in a memorandum for U.S. Senator Jacob Javits.
Okay, that is absurd. Most senior theses just gather dust in a library basement, or maybe your mom reads it.
Right.
His was being used in the U.S. Senate.
And later, it was used by the Puerto Rican Legal Defense and Education Fund in a landmark lawsuit. So this just reinforces that idea of the legal architect. He wasn't waiting for permission to change the system. He wasn't waiting until he had the degree on the wall. He was reshaping the system before he even graduated.
Which leads us directly to Yale Law. And the company he's keeping there is it's incredible. He's classmates with Clarence Thomas and Lonnie Guinier.
He is in the mix with people who will go on to shape American law for decades. And he gets involved in a case called Aspira v. Board of Education.
This is a pivotal moment, right, in his early career.
A huge moment. The Aspira Consent Decree is what mandated bilingual education for children with limited English proficiency in New York City.
I want to pause on the impact of that because we talk about bilingual ed and it sounds like a dry policy. But imagine the reality for a kid before that.
Imagine being 6 years old, you speak Spanish. You walk into a classroom where the teacher speaks only English. You sit there for 6 hours a day. You don't understand the instructions. You don't understand the math. You are silenced.
You feel stupid.
You feel stupid, even though you might be brilliant. You are completely isolated. It's a form of erasure.
It is.
So Del Valle wasn't just arguing about test scores or budgets. He was arguing that the state cannot silence a child just because they speak a different language. He was fighting for their right to be part of the conversation.
It connects back to the poetry so beautifully. His legal career was about giving people access to language they could understand. His poetry is about giving people access to emotions they can feel.
It's the same mission.
It's the exact same mission. I will give you the words you need to exist.
It is the same mission. Whether it was that case or another one, Pabon v. Levine, where he fought for bilingual notices for unemployment benefits.
So people wouldn't starve just because they couldn't read the English form.
Exactly. Or his time as a judge. He was the first Puerto Rican chief administrative law judge for the NY State Division of Human Rights. And look at what he prioritized. AIDS cases.
And this was in the early days of the epidemic, right? When people were terrified.
Yes. When there was immense stigma and fear. He prioritized those cases. He prioritized racial harassment cases. He was consistently using the law as a form of care. He used the bench to protect the most vulnerable people.
There's a really touching connection to Sonia Sotomayor in the notes as well.
Yes, this is an amazing detail. They met through a professor, Dr. Frank Ayala at Princeton. And Justice Sotomayor wrote an inscription in Del Valle's personal copy of her book, My Beloved World.
What did she write?
She wrote, "Manuel, you were my first role model. Someone with a passion for fighting for change."
When a Supreme Court justice calls you her first role model, you have. I mean, you've done something right with your life.
You really have. And the source describes him attending her investiture at the Supreme Court, and he was invited by Justice Thomas. So it's this full circle moment. The kid from the Carver house is watching one of his own ascend to the highest court in the land.
So, okay, we've established the weight of the man. He's a heavyweight, a serious legal mind. Now, let's look at the poetry. Because a man like this, you might expect his poetry to be grand, political, abstract, about the Constitution or something.
It would.
But he starts with something incredibly small. He starts with a library card.
This is the poem. He dropped his library card, his future friend found it. It's a narrative piece. It tells the story of a boy named David who's obsessed with knights and dragons. He goes to the library, reaches into his pocket, and realizes his card is gone.
Oh, that panic, that feeling as a kid when you lose something important.
Right. But Mark is there. Mark found it on the floor. And this is the serendipity theme that Del Valle loves so much. Yeah. If Mark had just handed it back and walked away, nothing happens. If Mark had ignored it, nothing happens. But Mark hands it back and they actually speak.
What do they talk about?
Mark likes Shakespeare's tragedies. David likes medieval history. They connect over stories. And that small, accidental moment, dropping a piece of plastic, sparks a lifelong bond.
And the poem tracks them into adulthood, doesn't it? It's not just a childhood story.
It does. David becomes a lawyer, fighting for justice, which is remarkably similar to Del Valle himself. And Mark becomes a writer, fighting with words. The poem says they shared a common fate created by happenstance.
It's terrifying to think about, isn't it? How many best friends did I miss because I didn't drop my library card, or because I was looking at my phone, or because I just said thanks and walked away?
Del Valle calls this the sacredness of the small. We tend to think friendship is about the big moments, the weddings, the funerals, the graduations. But Del Valle argues that the real substance of friendship is in the trivia.
The mundane stuff.
The mundane stuff. He has another poem where he argues that only friends know that the trivial things in life are not trivial at all.
And he lists these tiny moments, riding a subway for 14 stops, shoveling snow together for pocket change, ordering a milkshake at a drugstore.
To an outsider, watching two guys drink a milkshake is boring. It's nothing. But to the friends, that's the ritual. That's the geoking, the relationship built over time, built on 1,000 tiny moments like that. He argues that friends don't need explanations, they just deal with life and then some.
That line, they just deal with life and then some. It implies that life is something you have to deal with, like a burden, and the friend is the person who helps you carry it without you having to ask.
That's it.
You don't have to perform for a friend, you can just exist.
Exactly. With a colleague, you have to be professional. With a date, you have to be charming. With a friend, you can just be tired. You can just be quiet. That is a profound form of intimacy that we don't talk about enough.
But he doesn't just stay in the warm and fuzzy stuff. He goes into the darkness, too. Section 5 of our outline is vulnerability and loss. And he introduces this concept of the soul keeper.
I love this image. He defines a friend as a soul keeper who guards the castle of your thoughts and fights off the Black Knights.
It's a callback to the David and Mark story, the Knights and Dragons. But now the dragons are real.
The dragons are depression, they're anxiety, they're the crushing rigidity of the modern world. He says the friend reinvigorates the flow. When the world tries to turn you into a stone, a rigid employee, a rigid statute, a rigid role, the friend reminds you that you are fluid, that you are human.
The friend defends your interior world when you are too tired to defend it yourself.
That's it, exactly.
There's a specific poem about grief that I found really difficult to read, the Mermaid poem. It's haunting.
It is heartbreaking. It's about processing loss, but through the lens of a child. A little boy is told his mother has died, but the adults, trying to soften the blow, tell him she became a mermaid.
Which is such a classic mistake adults make. They think a fairy tale hurts less than the truth. Sometimes it hurts more.
So the boy goes to his grandfather's beach house, He stands in the ocean. He waits. He eventually falls asleep on the sand, right near the water, waiting for his mom to come back.
And he dreams.
He dreams she comes to him and gives him a pink flower. When he wakes up, the grandfather finds him. The boy holds up this little object he found on the beach. Maybe it's a piece of coral, maybe a shell, maybe a seaweed bulb. And he says, "Mama gave me this flower."
And the grandfather, this is the moment. This is the whole point.
The grandfather does not correct him.
Yeah.
That is the pivotal moment for understanding friendship in Del Valle's entire worldview.
Yeah.
The text says friendship is accepting the child's reality without argument.
Wow.
The grandfather knows the mom is dead. He knows that object is just a rock or a shell. But he validates the emotional truth because that is what the boy needs to survive the grief.
That's that emotional ecology again. If you introduce the fact in that moment, if you say, "No, son, that's rock, she's gone,"
Yeah.
you destroy the entire ecosystem of the boy's coping mechanism. You break him.
You break him. Exactly. Truth isn't always factual. Sometimes truth is emotional.
Yeah.
The grandfather becomes the boy's best friend in all the world because he prioritizes the boy's heart over the objective facts of the situation.
We see this kind of active care again in the poem about the blind friend. This one felt very modern to me. It's about adult onset disability.
It's a powerful one. The narrator meets a friend at a restaurant. The friend is stumbling a bit, wearing sunglasses indoors, and he reveals he's going blind. The doctors say he will lose his sight completely within a year.
Now, let's be real. The standard polite society response is pity. "Oh, I'm so sorry. Is there a cure? That's so terrible." Empty platitudes.
Right. No. But the narrator skips all of that. He goes straight to logistics,
Yeah.
to action. He starts talking about getting a seeing eye dog, and then he says, "We will learn to use a cane."
That one word does so much work in that line.
Everything. We. Not you.
Yeah.
And the backstory provided in the poem is that this friend had once saved the narrator from drowning at a beach when they were kids.
So it's a debt being repaid.
It's reciprocity. It's the narrator saying, "You navigated the water for me. I will navigate the darkness for you." That is kingy. That is loyalty in action.
It's practical solidarity. It's not thoughts and prayers. It's, "I'm buying a cane, let's go." It reminds me of his legal work getting the bilingual forms printed. It's about fixing the immediate, practical problem to help the human being function.
However, Del Valle is a realist. He knows not all friendships survive. He has this brutal, absolutely brutal analogy where he compares a failing friendship to a tumor.
Whoa, that's a sharp left turn from the Soul Keeper. A tumor.
It is a jarring shift in tone, and it's meant to be. He says friendship is like a tumor if unarrested. He describes how a single slight or misunderstanding can metastasize.
He's using medical language, metastasize. That's cancer.
He is. He's deadly serious. He points out that once that power of listening shuts down, once you stop hearing the other person's heart and you start hearing only your own defense mechanisms, the relationship becomes malignant.
It's a warning.
A huge warning. Friendship requires maintenance. It's not a stone. It's a plant. It can die. And if you let resentment and misunderstanding grow, it can kill the connection from the inside out.
Let's look at some of the specific scenes he paints. Because he's so visual, he has this way of setting a stage like a director. There's a poem called Flowers and Fruit, Sin, Lust, and Prosperity.
This is a painting in poem form.
Yeah.
He sets the scene perfectly. Rhine-colored leather chairs, mahogany tables, impressionist paintings on the wall. And he breaks down the symbolism of the fruit in the paintings. The apple for sin, the peach for lust, the grapes for prosperity.
It's very academic, very intellectual. And the two friends are there, dressed up, waiting for their dates.
Right. And they're having this high-level intellectual conversation about books and future projects. They're in the zone. They're in the flow. Then the dates arrive. And the tone shifts instantly.
They put on the masks.
He literally says they put on carnival masks. One is green and gold, the other is blue and silver. They become the fun guys. They go dancing, salsa music, loud energy spinning on the floor, a total performance.
But the whole point of the poem is what happens after.
The dates go home, the music stops, the silence returns, the masks come off, and the friends instantly snap back into the deep conversation exactly where they left it hours before.
That is the ultimate litmus test of a real friend, the pause button.
The pause button. If you can't pause a conversation for 5 hours or 5 years and pick it up without skipping a beat, are you really friends? Or are you just acquaintances going through the motions?
Del Valle suggests that true friendship exists outside of normal time. It has its own continuum.
It absolutely does.
Now contrast that high society intellectual scene with the poem Waking Up at 4:30 a.m.
The farm poem. This is about class and exposure and how friendship can change your whole life. You have a farm boy. His life is chores. Milking the cow. The cow is named Clever, by the way, which is a great little detail.
It's a very predictable life. The sun comes up, you milk the cow, the sun goes down, you sleep.
Very predictable, very grounded. Then he meets this friend group, presumably Valle and his crew of city intellectuals, and they disrupt his life. They completely break his routine. They introduce him to firsts.
Like what?
First tattoo, first dance, first time really questioning the routine he's been in his whole life.
They expanded his world, they broke the loop.
And that farm boy eventually becomes a teacher who teaches his own students to question. Del Valle is showing how friendship isn't just about fun and support, it's a catalyst. It changes your trajectory. If that boy hadn't met those friends, he might have stayed on the farm forever. Friendship intervenes in destiny.
Speaking of teaching and changing trajectories, we can't ignore Del Valle's own legacy as an educator. We've talked about the lawyer and the poet, but the teacher is the third pillar of his life. He taught at Fordham, Princeton, Yale.
And the reviews from his students are so telling. They don't just talk about the syllabus or the reading list. One student, Daniel Ibarrando, calls him a bridge.
Ibarrando had that great line about the university at the corner of Lenox Avenue.
Yes, it's brilliant. Ibarrando explains that his parents had a second-grade education, so he learned everything from the street, from the public library. He calls it UCLA University at the corner of Lenox Avenue.
Which is fantastic.
It is. But he says Del Valle was the bridge between that raw street knowledge and formal academic articulation. Del Valle didn't tell him, forget where you came from, that's not valid here. He said, use where you came from, but use these tools, law, history, sociology, to explain it. He gave him the power to conceptualize his own reality.
To give it a framework.
Exactly.
Another student, Rodney Fuster, talked about his Social Security disability class. He said it was the most demanding class he ever took, but that in it he felt most seen.
Strictness and genuine care. It's the grandfather with the mermaid flower all over again. I see you, I validate you, but also demand that you survive and thrive in this world.
He's not going to let you fail, but he's not going to make it easy, because the world isn't easy.
And that is the ultimate form of mentorship. That's real friendship, in a way.
There is one final image from the poetry that I want to leave people with before we wrap up. It's from the poem Sleeping on a Bench.
Yeah. This is maybe the most poignant image of grief in the entire book. The narrator describes sleeping barefoot in his pajamas on a bench in his own living room.
Why the bench? Why not his bed?
Because that's where his best friend always used to sit when he came over. The friend is gone, passed away, and the narrator is physically filling the empty space with his own body. He is curling up in the void his friend left behind.
That connects right back to the bone and flesh feeling, the amputation. He feels the missing limb.
It does. And he talks about the silence of absence. He notes that they might have gone a year without calling each other, but the bond, the connection, was always there. Now, the silence is different. It's final.
What?
But, and this is the classic Del Valle resilience, he resolves to use memory as a muse. He says his next work will be inspired by the friend. The friendship transcends death because it turns into art.
So it all circles back to the intro, the architecture of life. If your life is a building, friends are the load-bearing walls. And even if a wall is gone, the shape of the room remains. You still live in the space they help you build.
That's it. This collection, Omnibus Poetry 56, is a blueprint of that architecture. It traces a journey from the housing projects of Harlem to the halls of the Supreme Court, but it argues that the most important journey is the one between two people connecting over a milkshake or a dropped library card.
It really does take a special kind of mind to see the same emotional ecology in a human rights courtroom in Puerto Rico and a subway ride in New York.
It requires a mind that understands that justice isn't just about laws, it's about relationships. And that poetry isn't just about pretty words, it's about accurate observation of the human heart. At the end of the day, it's all about truth.
I want to close with a challenge to you, the listener. Del Valle writes a line that really stuck with me. Friends do not own each other's smiles, they are on loan.
A reminder of transience and a warning against possession. You don't possess your friends, you enjoy them while they are here.
So think about your own emotional taxonomy. Do you have the words? Are you using the word friend when you really mean joking, someone you just have a long history with? Are you ignoring the Gulro King, the deep bone and flesh bond because it's difficult or painful?
And don't ignore the library cards. Don't ignore the small things, the subway rides, the milkshakes. They aren't the filler between the important parts of life. They are the important parts of life. That is where the friendship actually lives.
We'll leave you with the description of Manuel del Valle Colón from the tribute included in the source material. It describes him as walking barefoot through thresholds of law and lyric, carrying scrolls of justice in one hand and the quiet fire of poems in the other.
A beautiful image for a beautiful life.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.